when Tony and I interview a lot of people, I usually am checked out of the interview within 10 minutes because I either know, hell yes, this person's a rock star, we're hiring them, or no chance. I'm gonna go through the questions, but I already have made up my mind. There's no way this is happening because of how they presented themselves and if they
Mhm.
showed up late, blah blah blah. Like I can immediately discount them. So I know there's no probably right or wrong answer, but how do you know you found your person? And does it have to be fairly immediate, or can some crazy bond grow over time that maybe wasn't there initially? And I know a lot of people start with friends and then it later develops because maybe, you know what I mean? You come at it from a different angle and becomes more romantic, but unpack that for me. And then obviously whoever asked the
It's a good
question,
question.
and hopefully Mal's okay with
Yeah,
me disclosing
I
that.
think,
Yeah.
okay, so how do you know it's the one? I would say you are your most authentic self in their presence, meaning you feel you can be yourself. You feel safe with them. There's something about them that makes you feel safe. You, you're open and willing to talk about everything, anything. They can ask you any question because you feel so safe in their presence. You are your best version of who you are with that person. You know it's the one when you're not looking at them of, well, how much potential do they have for change? Because once I get them to do this, do this, do this, then I'll know that that's the right one for me. And usually that comes from women. I hear more men say, like you, Bear, that they knew immediately when they first met that girl that he was going to marry her. I've heard more men say that. I never hear women say that, but men do say that. And I think maybe men that I don't know your personality style, but I do a personality course, and I'm imagining you're probably a red personality, which is a very decisive, black and white, no gray, and which is why you make decisions fast, immediately, and again, I'm not sure about your personality, but
That's definitely
that,
accurate. If I'm going to buy a
okay,
car, I'll buy it within 10 minutes on the lot. That's it. Like
yep,
I don't have to debate it. I
that's
don't have
my
to
husband.
yeah,
That's my husband. Exactly.
yeah.
And so you're decisive, but I would say give it some time. Give it some time to really get to know that person. Because for a man, if she looks good and she makes you feel good about yourself, it's like, oh, I'll take her. Right. And so, but you need to give it time to see the real her, because the real her is coming. She may not show you on the first day or the first two or the first three, but she's coming. And a lot of women, I always say, be your most authentic self. And women will say, well, men probably say this too, but women to me have said, like this one girl, she's older woman. I'm going to say late 40s, early 50s. And she gets a text. She's in my presence. She goes, oh my gosh, he just texted me. She goes, what should I say back? And I go, well, what do you want to say back? Well, I don't want to blow it. I don't want to blow it because it might be the one. I go, number one, if you can blow it, he's not the one. Okay. If you have to do everything right and be perfect because he might be the one, you can't be yourself. And the one is going to love your idiosyncrasies. He's going to love everything about you. He's going to think it's cute, the stuff that you don't maybe like about yourself. So just be your most authentic self. And I text her, that day I said, what do you want to say back? And she goes, well, I would say this. I go, then say it. I'm not going to tell you what to say. This is your relationship. Say what you want to say. Be real. Don't be trying to win him by being the perfect woman. Be you. If he gets scared off or he can be chased off, better for you. Let him be chased off, because you want a guy that will stick it through, will stick to you no matter what. So, and I always tell women, scare them off. Do whatever you can to scare them off. If they're still hanging in there, there's something there. So that would be my take of how to know they're the one. Now, of course, there's people that get married. They knew each other 3 weeks and boom, got married. And they're still married 25 years later. And then there's people that dated for 3 years. They did everything right. And they were divorced 2 years after marriage. I mean, it's different for everybody. You just, you don't know.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. And I think,
Lots of different stories. Yeah.
I think you kind of hit on it earlier, but when you're first dating someone, I think getting right to the point on some of the things that are really important to you. I would imagine people that are a little older in dating, people in their 20s probably aren't doing this, but I think as you know what I mean? You have a little bit more life under your belt. It's like you don't have really
Yes.
time to screw around anymore. So you don't have this 4 or 5 month grace period where you don't ask any hard questions. You kind of get right to it, right? Not you don't put them on the spot, but I think it's important that values align and you at least have some things in common, right? And it's not just
You have to.
purely a
Yeah,
physical
because
thing. Yeah.
people people connect at values. Okay. If your values, what you value, is completely opposite of mine, I can respect it, but we're not really going to connect. And so you connect at values, you connect at purpose, you connect at personality types. If there's got to be chemistry and compatibility and communication in with that person, and that's all the stuff you're looking at when you're dating. Dating is in preparation for marriage. Like, if you don't want to be married, why are you dating? If you just want to play with the opposite sex, you need to let them know that up front. I mean, if you're not interested in actually getting into a committed relationship, no shame in being single, but don't lead people on, unless you both, again, what you're both committed to is just having fun together. Neither of you want a committed relationship. And if that's what you want, great for you. But if you want somebody, to be a stepmom to your child, or, somebody to build a life with, another person to go through life with, then you've got to figure out what are your core values, what are theirs? Because if they're not the same, and that's why you date for a while, so that you find out, are they just saying that, or is that really line up? If you're a Christian person and strong in your faith, why would you even date an atheist? Someone who says there's no God and you believe there is. Like, you don't go together. That's not being compatible. You've got to talk on those when you start dating somebody. You got to look at their character. What kind of character do they have? How do they treat waiters and waitresses? How do they treat the valet? How do they are they teachable? Are they humble? Are they arrogant? Are they prideful? Like, I always tell women, don't marry for money, because that's a kind of a hot topic these days, is women saying, oh, he's got to make $500,000 a year. I won't even go on a date. Well, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Because if you marry for money, money comes and goes. I've experienced it. If you marry, it comes and goes. And so the money's gone. Something happens, you lose it all. Now what do you have left? And, my husband and I, we had nothing. We got married very young. We had nothing. We built our life together, for sure. And we built it very strong financially. And then in 2008, we lost everything. We lost 3 homes in 2008.
Yeah.
And my husband was so angry with himself. And so, because we just we listened to the wrong voices, is really what happened. And he kind of fell into a depression. And he would say things to me like, what, you should be with someone, makes me emotional. He'd say, you should be with someone who can take better care of you. He goes, I feel like a failure. I've blown it. And I looked at him, and more than once, and I said, when I married you, you had nothing. I said, I didn't marry you for this lifestyle that you have been providing me. I married you because of who you are. And as long as we have each other and our health and our kids are good, we're rich. It's not about the almighty dollar. We have everything we need right here. But for a man, I know that's a big deal. They handle losses differently than a woman does.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I totally can relate to your husband, because, again, as the man, do you feel like that's your obligation, right? It's on your shoulders. Even if the woman is doing their part financially, like, just as a man, we're wired to say, this is my job. I'm going to go provide. So I could see why he would feel inadequate, but awesome that you were able to kind of give him that context of like, hey, buddy, when I first, agreed to marry you, we were just a couple kids that didn't have, much anyway. So, and I think that was the root of this, the reason I wanted to kind of do a different topic on the podcast today is because, I think you probably would agree. I think I saw someone talking about it on the internet, but like, they said, 90% of your happiness in life is derived from the relationship, right? You can do all the other things right? But if your relationship is wrong, you could be the richest guy ever and, have a bunch of cool friends and, be able to go on hunting trips and ski trips and all this. But if your spouse is not, if that is not a good, in a good place, you will be miserable your whole life.